How's it going, guys? Happy 2020. I forgot to wish you all happy 2020. I hope this new year is the year where all of your hard work gets recognized. I think that's the most important thing. And here's my cat who wants to say hi. My cat Shawanda. So in this video, I want to tell you what I've been up to in terms of my musical endeavors and talk about chasing tone, what I think makes sense, what I've found to be easier, etc. So I've been working full time as a programmer. I never stopped doing that. And in conjunction, my sort of expensive hobby is music. And I've been trying to figure out the helix for the last month or so. And it's been a little bit more difficult than I thought it was going to be. The main difference is that the processor, the concept of using a guitar processor is different from using your regular gear. And let me explain. A lot of people think that when you play, guitar through a processor, it's a replacement for your guitar amplifier. That's not so. The processor replaces the entire chain of equipment ending with the PA. So when you're practicing guitar, you're usually used to hearing yourself out of the amp, out of the speaker cabinet, and feeling that air as you're playing guitar. When you're playing through a helix, it makes you sound the way guitar sounds coming out of the speakers, out of the PA speakers in the venue. So it's just a different feel that you need to simply get used to, how your guitar reacts, how it feels. Unless you play guitar, you don't really fully understand what it's like to stand in front of a wall of Marshalls. That feeling of air moving as you hit a power chord. That feeling, there's no substitute for it. So as you're using something that is a replacement for that entire kind of chain of equipment, you need to get used to that new feeling. So that's the most important thing. In terms of the helix, I've recorded a video maybe a few weeks ago how I think it could have been done a lot better in terms of the ergonomics of the unit, in terms of the features that could have been just better organized. In terms of the power of this piece of equipment, I think it's fantastic. The default settings are horrendous. Everything out of the box sounds like crap. It's just mind-blowing. You literally you drag in your basic amplifier, basic distortion in conjunction, it sounds horrible. You can tweak it and it will sound great. Today I'm going to the band leader's house and I will try out some of the presets that I made, and the presets are made in such a way that each song is its own preset with multiple snapshots. For those of you who are unfamiliar with how a helix functions, it's basically you have your kind of set of all the different effects, and that's your preset, and then you can turn things on or off or tweak them slightly, and those are your snapshots without any audible delay. So before I decided, before going any further, I decided to kind of confirm several of my main sounds, and then after that is done, I'm going to go and set up all 20, how many songs? 25 songs that I know how to play with this band as an individual preset, and then when I know the set order, I can just simply rearrange those presets in a specific order, and as I'm playing this show, I can just keep pressing next, 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 and then each one of the presets is going to have several sections like introduction, main, solo, some other thing. So each song has about up to four different sounds. Most of the stuff has like two. So I will record the recording process with multiple angles. I'm going to be using this iPhone. It's an iPhone SE. If anybody's interested, I have another iPhone SE, and I will be using an iPad, and I will try to edit everything together so you will get multiple angles. So in this video, I wanted to talk about tone chasing. That's the main kind of topic that I wanted to discuss. So first of all, if you are a novice guitarist, you need to understand the concept of being a team player. And that means basically the following. You may sound good by yourself in your bedroom, but then if you take the same sound and apply it to the band setting, it's just not going to work. Because, for example, that satisfying low end when you're playing your metal riffs, it's great, right? But then when you start playing with the bass guitar needs to occupy that lower frequency. And if you don't give it to the bass guitar is going to turn up, and you're competing for the same frequency. And it's just not going to sound good, because of the various, tuning idiosyncrasies. So the main thing about setting your sound in a band context is to have your allocated spectrum, basically. And that's when bands like Led Zeppelin come to mind. Jimmy Page's guitar is very trebly compared to other bands like Metallica, like And Justice for All type of a sound, right? That's why the bass is just not, it's not there. It's there, but it's not. So Jimmy Page's guitar is very trebly, and then John Paul Jones's bass is very low end heavy, and together, in conjunction, they just make this massive sound. To make a massive sound, you don't necessarily need to have your guitar just have that boomy metal tone. And another thing, here's my advice. I have said this many times. People keep asking me, what distortion do you use? How do you get that sound? If you don't believe me, fine. And then I tell them I use a Boss DS1. A Boss DS1 I bought first when I was 18. I went to the store and I'm like, well, let me buy a distortion pedal. And that's basically the beginner distortion pedal that everybody gets. And most people set everything in the middle, and it sounds horrible. I found a great setting that turns out Gary Moore was also using, setting the knobs like this. Not like this, like this. The distortion and the tone, and then cranking the volume. And that's been my go-to tone for almost 20 years. And I'm telling you, people have been asking me, how do you get that tone? And when I tell them it's DS1, they are in disbelief. Because with Boss DS1, I'm able to clean up my sound. I can get that really saturated, heavy sound. It's great for everything. But the main thing is, equipment like this has very few control parameters. It's got 3 knobs: tone, distortion, and volume. Some pedals out there have this and that and mids and like 7 different knobs. Too much. Here's another example. My favorite amp, I was playing a show this Saturday, and I was playing through a Fender Deluxe. Fender Deluxe is a 1 speaker, I don't know, I think 20 watt amp or something like that. Loud, perfect. It's got 2 sort of sections, the simple section and the more complicated section with, I think, definitely reverb, maybe even vibrato, not sure. But the simple input has 3 knobs: bass, treble, and volume. That's all. I don't need any. Here's in comparison to that, another amp that I've used one time in the studio, some kind of a Mesa Boogie, just it had like 4 rows of knobs. That amp had gain, volume, master volume, low lows, mid lows, mid mids, high mids, high highs, treble cut, a switch for overdrive signal versus clean. I think it even had an EQ for the reverb. Anyway, way too complicated, too much stuff. The problem with so many parameters is that, first of all, you don't need all of that stuff. And second of all, it's impossible to set everything just sort of flat because there's so many ways of screwing up your tone. And I'm telling you, I could not dial in a simple, clean tone out of that amp. I tried all of the different channels. It was just confusing. So that's and one more reason for why having so many controls is a bad thing is because you can easily forget your optimal setting that you found. There's too many things. The knobs are like, they're not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're like in between, and the sound can change drastically. So here's my advice: find a piece of equipment that is simple. Too many options is not necessarily an advantage. And then in terms of your sound, sometimes simplicity is the best thing. Look at, for example, Jimi Hendrix, his sound setup. For example, the Monterey Festival. What was that song he played? Like Hey Joe or Like a Rolling Stone. I think that was the Monterey Pop Festival. Great. And what is it? It's just literally one guitar, I think 2 amps, two Marshalls, a fuzz box. That's it. Nowadays people have multiple channels, multiple effects, stereo, this, that. I remember I was playing a show in Portland, and I was I was with the main act, and my pedal board was just 3 things: processor, distortion, wah. The warm-up band had a freaking like spaceship controller of a pedal board. So many different things, and bottom line, they sounded like crap. Too many things. So here's another example. Sorry for the kind of disorganized ranting. Everybody, loves the 1985 Live Aid performance by Queen. People have been saying that this is the best live performance of any band. That, I think it's tied with The Who at the Rolling Stone, what is it? Rock and Roll Circus, which I actually prefer. But people have been, according to various polls, the 1985 Live Aid concert by Queen is the best in terms of the sound, in terms of energy, the best performance. What sets that performance apart from the other performances by Queen is that compared to the usual setup of the Queen guitarist Brian May, where he uses 3 amplifiers, 3 Vox AC30s, 1 direct, and the other 2 with chorusing added. During this performance at the Live Aid, they just used 1 Vox AC30 without the chorusing, and it just sounds more direct. It sounds somehow better. So simplicity may actually be a good thing. So just some thoughts, take it with a grain of salt. That's me, that's my advice. In terms of equipment, in terms of settings, it's all personal. What works for me may not work for you, but just wanted to share some things. Thank you for watching, the 8 or 9 of you. have a great day.